Today I decided to give you guys a top 10 list of my favorite horror video games. Now, for this list, I'm only going to do one entry per franchise, otherwise there would be like 4 Resident Evil games on here and probably at least 3 Silent Hill games as well. So for the sake of variety, we're going to just do one per franchise, so the list will be a little more interesting. So without further ado, let's get started with my top 10 favorite horror video games. Coming in at number 10 would have to be Evil Dead Regeneration. I love the Evil Dead series, and I've played pretty much all the video games. And it took them a while to get one that was actually pretty damn good. There's a PS1 game called Hail to the King, and it's like a clunky Resident Evil knockoff. There's a decent third-person action game called Fistful of Boomstick, which was also kind of a letdown. But they finally had a really good one with Regeneration. Essentially, this is an alternate version of Evil Dead 2. Basically, after the events of that movie, instead of traveling back in time with Army of Darkness, you're committed to an insane asylum for killing your friends, and you have to play as Ash and team up with this character named Sam, actually voiced by Ted Raimi, as you battle the Deadites and try to save the world from the Evil Dead threat. It's a really fun, if not a bit linear, kind of shooter. The game has unlimited ammo as well as unlimited gasoline, something that I did like more about the previous entries. But if you love Evil Dead and you love Bruce Campbell, you're going to love this game. Fun Deadite killing action with a great sense of humor and an interesting art style. It's just a good time. Basically, it's like a mix of kind of playing like a Devil May Cry knockoff with a little bit of God of War thrown in there. It's a fun little action game and one that I do recommend. Up next is Castlevania 64. Now, this is technically not the best Castlevania game. That would probably have to go to Symphony of the Night or even Super Castlevania 4. But it's the first one that I ever played, and it has a very nostalgic place in my heart. I really enjoy the action this time around. I like the 3D look and feel of the game. The soundtrack is amazing. The environments are creepy. It's just a great third-person adventure platformer with a good story and basically about the ancestors of the characters from the original Castlevania games. You can play as Reinhard Schneider, who is kind of like your Belmont character with the whip, or Carrie Earnhardt, who basically uses energy blast, kind of like a Kamehameha, and that's basically the easy mode of the game. The game is very enjoyable, and it's one that I definitely recommend. There is a continuation in the game called Legacy of Darkness, although I always kind of slightly prefer the original, because Legacy of Darkness kind of felt just like a sequel, but one that reused a lot of assets. But they're both really enjoyable, and if you can get them for cheap, I do recommend them, although Legacy of Darkness goes for high dollar these days. Up next, we have Friday the 13th, the game. This is a magnificent game that basically focuses on multiplayer, where you play as either Jason Voorhees or as one of the camp counselors or survivors as you run away from Jason Voorhees and try to escape Crystal Lake or destroy Jason. While I do love single-player games more than multiplayer, this does have a fun multiplayer mode, and even though it's kind of shut down now, it's still a fun game to play in the single-player modes. Just a great, ambitious game that led to many other games similar to this, such as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, and even an upcoming Halloween game made by the same company. The Friday the 13th game was just really ahead of its time, with great-looking animations that were actually mocapped by Kane Hodder himself. That's right, the man Jason played Jason in this game. As well as just really awesome kills and magnificent atmosphere. There's nothing not to love about this game. And even if you can't play it online, the single player mode is still really fun. And I really just love the recreations of the kills from the games as well. A fun entry and a really fun horror game that needs more love. Up next, we have BloodRayne 2. I'm a big fan of vampire games, and the BloodRayne series is really entertaining, and I wish we had a proper third entry. But this was still a great game where you basically play this character named Rain, and you go around killing other vampires as you go on this quest of violence and brutality. It's got great graphics, amazing blood animation, overly sexualized and stylized atmosphere. It's just a kind of game that you don't see much anymore, and it was great for its time. Rain is just a cool character, and if you just want to play as a badass vampire on a warpath while just raining down blood as you kill your enemies, this is the game for you. Up next, we have Luigi's Mansion. Now, this one's not exactly scary, but I really do love this game. This is the first game I ever played on GameCube, and it was a launch title for the system. It basically just takes the idea of Ghostbusters, only instead of sucking up ghosts into a Trap, this game has you just suck the ghost up into a vacuum cleaner. It's clearly Ghostbusters inspired, but it has its own little unique twist and spin, and it was just a great game. The graphics are amazing, even 24 years removed from its initial release. And the atmosphere, while not necessarily scary per se, it does have a nice spooky look to it. It's a relatively short game, and the sequels kind of add a little bit more depth to the gameplay, but I always did like the first one the most out of the trilogy. It's just a magnificent game through and through, and if you love Mario as well as a good spooky atmosphere, I definitely recommend this game. Luigi finally got his own adventure, and it's one of the best on this system. Speaking of Ghostbusters, next we have Ghostbusters, the game. There are actually several Ghostbusters games, some 2D ones as well as a few newer ones, but the one that actually featured all four of the Ghostbusters, voiced by the original cast, is definitely the best. I do wish the game was a little bit longer. There's only about 7 missions in it, but they are relatively long, each one lasting about an hour. I think the game, it just looks magnificent. The little details they got, from the firehouse to the proton packs to the Ecto-1, even Slimer and Vigo's painting are there as well. There's just so many little details, and it's just a magnificent game from start to finish. If you like Ghostbusters, you're going to love this game, and it's been remastered for more modern systems as well. There's no reason not to play this one. It is just magnificent. Up next, we have Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen. I love the Legacy of Kain series, and Soul Reaver is definitely the most popular game in that series. And while I do love me some Raziel, I think Kain is a better character, and this is probably the most dark and gothic of the series. The first entry just really is kind of morbid and depressing. It basically plays kind of like a 2D Zelda game, but with more macabre and vampiric undertones and setting. You play as this character named Kain, who is this nobleman who is murdered, but then he comes back to life after making a deal with a demon, and he becomes a vampire. He ends up going around getting his revenge, but then ultimately decides to try to rule Nosgoth and destroy the representations of the pillars of Nosgoth, and eventually ruling the land. It's just a great story of a man who dies and is resurrected and becomes a horrific leader in this really messed up world known as Nosgoth. I love the Legacy of Kain series, and Blood Omen might actually be my favorite game in that series. If you love good adventure or vampires, you're going to like this game. And it's the best horror game in that series, and definitely deserving of a spot on this list. Up next, we have Dead Rising. Made by Capcom in 2006, this game shows a photographer named Frank West who goes to a mall in this fictionary town of Willamette and tries to find out what started the zombie outbreak, as all hell breaks loose and he has to survive for 72 hours. It's just a magnificent game that has great action, huge zombie hordes. You can kill them any way you could imagine, whether it be guns, knives, chainsaws, lawnmowers, umbrellas, whatever you can find inside the mall you can use as a weapon, and it's so magnificent. This game led to a long-running series and even a remake, as well as a full-blown remaster, and I just love this game. If you're a fan of zombie action and just horror in general, you have to play the Dead Rising games. It's like Resident Evil if it was way less serious and was kind of tongue-in-cheek and minus the mutants. Just a magnificent game and a magnificent setting, and one that I constantly come back to at least once or twice a year. I love the Dead Rising series, and the best one is the first entry in that series. Coming at number 2 will have to be Silent Hill 2. Now, I love the remake, and I also love the original, and it's pretty much a tie for this game. If you prefer better graphics with better gameplay, you're going to like the remake. But if you prefer that early 2000s feel with kind of heavier fog and also more janky mechanics, then you probably prefer the original. There's really no version of this game that's better than the other, so they kind of both take this spot. I really love the atmosphere and look of this game about a man who lost his wife, but is trying to find her anyway in this town called Silent Hill because he believes that somehow she might be there. Along the way, he faces inner demons as well as his trauma and other people who are just as messed up as he is in this messed up town. And it leads to a macabre and dark story that is beautiful, atmospheric, sad, and it's just an amazing experience. It may be one of the best games ever made, and it's my favorite of the Silent Hill series, although I still really do love 4, and the original is great as well. And what's great is it's not really a sequel to the first game. It does take place after the first game, but it's a standalone sequel. So if you haven't played the others, you can just jump right in here. One that really does pull at your emotions. Silent Hill 2 is a masterpiece. Up next, we have Resident Evil 2 Remake. Now, I do love the original Resident Evil 2, and I actually think that its A and B scenarios are much better handled than the original. But apart from that, everything else I like more about the remake, including the gameplay and overall feel of the game as well. You basically play as Leon Kennedy as well as Claire Redfield in the police department that has been overrun by zombies as well as other mutant horrors, and you have to make your way throughout the station, finding out the secrets of what happened, and eventually leading to an underground base where even more horrors await. It's just a great survival horror game with magnificent gameplay, amazing shooting, awesome weapons, great graphics. It was really ahead of its time, and it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, remakes of any video game. I just love the atmosphere and look of this game, as well as the action, and I find myself playing this game all the time. It's also my favorite of the Resident Evil series, and even though I do love the original, this remake just really does overtake it in most ways. And I think that if you like horror or zombie action, you will absolutely love Resident Evil 2 Remake. Still great to this day, and you can play it on modern systems as well. If you love good horror, good action, or good story, you're gonna find it here. Well, that's my list. I do thank you all for watching. If you'd like, let me know your favorite horror video game down below. I could even see myself doing another 10. These are just the first 10 that came to mind when I think of horror. But there really is no bad game on this list, and there's rather great horror games out there as well. So, if you'd like, let me know what your favorite horror game is, and peace out.